Today I want to talk about that one time I got a $10,000 check and it blew my nervous system out of the water and why it's nothing like people make it seem. So in this video I want to talk about how making that dream number of cash is only going to bring up more of your shit and how to actually do the real work so that you can make sustainable money and feel damn good about yourself. Yeehaw, let's get into it. In this video, exactly what we're going to dive into is why you might be stuck at a certain revenue level and how to get unstuck. And we're going to explore why the nervous system truly is what determines the amount of money you can make, keyword can, and how you can begin to repattern your nervous system responses so that you can actually welcome more money into your life, even if you have no idea WTF a nervous system actually is. So this was about a little bit more than a year ago. It was the day I got my first $10,000 in one sitting. It was a check to design this cabin for a client. This little kooky cowboy got handed a check to do work and I thought it was amazing. It was everything I ever asked for. I made it all in one day, but guess what? It literally only exacerbated my insecurities around money. This story is hilarious. I got the check and I went to deposit it and my bank's like, you've never seen this much money before. And they put a 10 business day hold on my bank account, which is 2 full weeks. And so during that time, I saw that I had a pending balance of like 10,000 something. But then I overdrafted my bank account to one day I was like, what the heck? Available balance negative 159, pending 9,800, whatever it is. So during that 2 weeks, I would lose sleep staying up, just doom looping these stories about how the money was never gonna land and that I wasn't good enough and I was so unworthy and all these things. Even though it was literally the most amount of money I ever made, it was the most insecure I'd ever felt about money. Super, super fascinating. So that scarcity runs deep, you know? So even though this was trying to come in, this abundance, I still was operating from that outdated place. And I want to really dive into what was going on inside my body because that's really how we do the most meaningful work to start to welcome in more money into our lives. So here's another picture. So we're going to dive into why you're stuck hitting a revenue ceiling. I've been there multiple times. I know exactly that feeling. So here's how it boils down to. In this, I'm gonna try to make it this abstract and then specific because you have to be able to interpret for yourself. You have to be able to critically think how this applies to your own life. So your narrative of self-worth plus the code in your nervous system is what determines your capacity to receive money, dollars. And I'm gonna expand on what this means. But the first part of this is if my story around money is I just need enough to pay my bills, how that translates to your body is I feel most safe when I just make enough to pay my bills. So anything more is a threat to not only the narrative, but the perceived safety because your body's just gotten used to that level. And so how this relates to self-worth is we tend to only receive what we believe we are worthy of. And so a good way that we can start to see this in action is by looking to the different areas of our life that this might cross-pollinate. Look into your relationship patterns, love, your home, and why maybe you keep seeing the same pattern of something that's just not quite hitting that spot that you want to hit. If you're stuck in one area of life, chances are there's an emotion stuck there too. And that's what I really want to uncover. That's what's been the most transformative for me in my journey as a creative entrepreneur and being able to make money that feels more like, yeah, this feels great to me. But you have to discover what that emotion is for you. It could be anger trying to express itself through you because you aren't satisfied with the amount of money you're making. But if your pattern has been, oh, anger isn't safe, it's not safe for me to feel anger, I certainly don't express anger at any cost, then this emotion is blocked and therefore all of the breakthroughs that live on the other side of the emotion are also blocked too. So you're not only stuck, you're stuck from ever even becoming aware of what those breakthroughs could feel like. So here's a practice of how to find the emotion. When you really think about your inherent self-worth and where you want to be, What emotion is present that you aren't allowing yourself to fully feel? There's always something that we're avoiding, almost always, I should say, in our system. Or something that we've repressed that we're not even quite aware that we're avoiding, but there's usually something there. If you're stuck, there's 100% an emotion stuck too. It could be grief, sadness, resentment, anger, regret, blame, whatever it is, you name it. And here's how you start to uncover it and start to daylight it and work with it. I call it naming it without shaming it. So write down the emotion that's keeping you stuck and any stories that are attached to it. Like literally write it down on a piece of paper and look at it so you have it right then and there. And if you don't know what emotion is keeping you stuck, just spend some time really thinking about like, what are some emotions I haven't allowed myself to feel or haven't felt for a long time? I haven't cried for this long, I haven't expressed anger. That'll start to get this kind of cognitive sort of alignment with, oh yeah, shoot, actually I haven't felt that. But sometimes we're so numb from the neck down, especially for me as a man, I feel like I've been so numb from the neck down that it's been really hard just to discover what those emotions are. Also, I'd recommend starting to see a somatic therapist, but that's a different story. So for me, literally naming it without shaming it, shame was and has been the biggest block for me. So a huge story that I tell myself around shame is I shame myself because I believe I should be more successful than I currently am. And as a byproduct of that, I feel more inadequate because I'm not where I want to be, which paradoxically is the belief that is creating more of the actions and behaviors and emotions that are reinforcing the fact that I'm inadequate and I'm in shame. It's a really, really vicious cycle, and I guarantee you that might be playing out in your life in a different way as well. So rather than repressing the shame and not looking at it or just saying, oh yeah, it's that over there, let's lean into it and discover what might be inside of it. So here's a series of questions I like to ask my clients when we're starting to work with their emotional and belief systems. So I love this word, I'm gonna put this in quotes because should is such a powerful indicator where we're not free and we have room to grow. Where is this should coming from? For me, it's like, oh, I see other people who are more successful than I am and I am not. Ooh, okay, like that's tender. So what emotion is inside of that? And for me, it was sort of a grief that I'm not living that life that I want to live and that I'll never have it. So it's like this deep, deep sadness. But I would never let myself actually feel it because the shame blocks the grief, if that makes sense. There's different layers to this, right? So then what happens if I actually start to grieve that life that I'm not living? It might be intense and it requires me to like let the guards of shame down and just accept where I am. And it's gonna be sad, but it actually is relieving once I feel those deeper emotions. Like anyone who's really just cried their brains out knows how liberating that feeling is. So it's like a release of pressure that's been built up for so long, right? And then my favorite question is like, well, what becomes available on the other side of that? What becomes available with the release of that pressure? And the answer is always just acceptance for what is, for yourself, for your emotional state. And inside of that, we get such greater access to our authenticity, right? So it's inside of that authenticity, there's such a willingness to try because you're accepting where you are. You realize, yeah, I would like to be there, but I'm not there. I'm only right here. And you know what? That's where I am, and I'm there for a reason. So now I'm fully here. I'm not wishing I was somewhere else. Now I can try because all of me is here. So you can really start to see how this expands your self-concept. But now I really want to take a look at what's happening inside the body because this is where the real work starts to happen. So we're going to dive into the nervous system. So in essence, your nervous system is what filters the reality that you experience, and it does it for you, without you really being a participant in it. So it categorizes the people, places, things, opportunities, and experiences that you have into buckets of, this makes me feel safe, this makes me feel unsafe, this I'm unsure about. So this is where all of our emotional experiences are encoded into our body. Even the ones that you are suppressing and not letting happen. That's a huge, huge area that we're limited, is all the places we've learned to repress ourselves. That's energy, right? And it is neither created nor destroyed, so it just gets stuck somewhere. And the answer is it's stuck inside your body. So this idea of why can't I break through this revenue ceiling is really just tying itself back onto an emotional relationship with probably you trying to expand and express yourself and not feeling safe, or being teased, or not being met there, said, you can't sing, you can't dance, whatever it is. It sounds, a little woo, but it's so fundamental. Like, that stuff is stored in our body. So I like to say that money work is actually predominantly nervous system work. I mean, we can rewire our mindset and our stories, but I would argue that the actual breakthroughs in doing the mindset work happen through emotions in the body. So money, let's talk about it as a flowing resource. So it has to have an equal balance, or you have to learn how to have an equal balance in your capacity to give and to receive it. So a good practice, you can just base level start looking at your nervous system response to money is, where am I more comfortable, in the giving or the receiving? And then vice versa. So why am I more scared of receiving, and why? Because receiving means I don't have control. I don't like when I'm not in control. I don't like when something comes to me. I like to be the one that gives because I'm in control of it. And you see how the story starts to deepen. So maybe inquiring, when did it start to feel unsafe for you to give or receive, whether that's money, love, this and that, all tied together. Hate to break it to you, but money, relationships, cash, and sex, they're so inextricably linked. So if you're stuck in one, you're probably stuck in the other. And again, it's like, what emotion might be there? Just like what we looked at above. So a lot of our money, or a lot of our story around money is actually hidden in the story we tell ourselves about our identity. So let's just quickly dive into that. There's so much to do here, but this is just a brief overview of how you can start working with money and why this became so powerful for me when I made $10,000, but I literally could not accept it into my system. So this is how I learned to start to welcome that, and I'm hoping that you guys are finding this valuable. So this is how to do the inner work to get the outer result, right? Because it's all an inside out game. We think it's the other way around, but it's not. That literally, it was the $10,000 didn't land in it actually took like 11 business days. It didn't land in my bank account until I became completely at peace with it actually not coming. And can I still act from a place that, hey, that didn't work out, but I'm gonna try anyways? Then it landed. It's stuff like that. So great question to ask is, how updated is your relationship to yourself? Are you 100% up to date? Or are you kind of operating a few versions back, For me, when that money tried to come in, I was operating as like 21-year-old Kev, who was vagabond, transient, thought freedom was just having no commitments and barely needed any money to get by, when I was physically becoming like very conscious, responsible adult Kev who wanted deeper responsibility, who wanted commitments and those things. So there was a disharmony there because I might have cognitively been in a new season, but my nervous system was operating in this old pattern. So I like to ask, from what age are you predominantly relating to yourself? I'm only 27, so this is different for everybody. But for me, it was like, oh, that was my 20-year-old self who had something to prove, and all of the blind spots and shadows that came with that. Or are you relating to yourself from the 30-year-old who's made something for himself or herself, but you have something to lose, so you're scared to lose it? Or are you relating to yourself from the 10-year-old who just didn't want to be hurt again because he just had discovered what it's like to express himself and to feel unsafe? No, it's really, really hard to look at those things, but these have huge impacts on our conscious adult selves, especially as an entrepreneur. So again, from these places is where we adapt our behavior to compensate for the stories that are encoded in our nervous system that are saying to us now, you have to earn love and respect by proving yourself, or you can't lose what you have because then who are you? You've worked so hard. And avoid connection and self-expression at all costs because these lead to pain. So look to where your identity has shadows that brush into stories like these. Obviously, those are only 3 examples. Hopefully there's something more specific and unique to you. But what you can do now is you can question the validity of those current stories and any assumptions that they create about the world around you. People won't love me if I don't prove myself. That's false. It's time to create some space between that. I'll never have that much money. It's like, who says, if you say, yeah, you're right, but you don't have to hold on to that. You can create a different story and you can make a different statement about life. People with money are not my people. It's like, yeah, we can intentionally limit ourselves like that, but I know plenty of amazing people who have a shit ton of money who are really confident and embodied and doing great work in the world, and money is just too complicated, Typo's gonna bother me. Money is just too complicated. I don't get it. It's too hard. And it's like, again, like our language really creates our relationship to the world around us, and we are free to change our language at any time. And that's what really starts to rewire the way that our body feels, right? So put a question mark behind these stories and feel into them, and whatever emotion may be hidden inside of these. So I would talk for another hour on this stuff, but I think this time would be better spent thanking you for being here. And I have a free exercise from my program, Emotional Productivity, that is going to help you go through the identity work to uncover some of these blind spots, to break free from them in regards to identity and how that impacts your ability to receive and create the wealth that you desire, welcome more money into your life, have a nervous system that says yes to more. So I'll link that in the description. But for now, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. This is a bit different of a video, but it was such a pivotal role, played such a pivotal role in my journey as a creative entrepreneur that I just had to share it and what I learned from it, most importantly. I don't just want to tell you how to go out there and make it. It's like, oh, what's the real work that you need to do to be able to accept it, So maybe hope this is different than what you're getting out there on YouTube. I have no idea, but thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.